The Southern Nevada Water Authority wants other western water districts just to face reality and start conserving precious resources in the face of what is now a 20-year drought.
SNWA feels it is wasteful to grow certain water-intensive crops in parched desert landscapes, but does the Water Authority follow its own advice? Chief 8 News Now investigator George Knapp has our story.
I'll say in a word, the answer is no. SNWA is not following the advice that it's handed out to other water agencies in the West. SNWA has done a great job in encouraging conservation of precious water resources by telling the public to wise up and be water smart. But at the same time, it's been pouring precious water into a massive venture.
California's Imperial Valley is a breadbasket where all manner of winter vegetables are grown, but a drive through the valley makes it clear what grows most of all: field after field of thick green alfalfa. It takes 7 feet of water to grow each acre of alfalfa, all of which is fed to animals and most of which is exported to Asia, especially to China. This single water district gets more Colorado River water than the entire states of Nevada and Arizona combined, which is why Nevada water officials have urged changes in how water from the troubled river is used.
Well, ordinarily, I stay out of my neighbor's business, but when you have a math problem and 80% of the water use is in agriculture and 80% of that 80% is for forage crops, which are largely exported, it's hard not to see how that's not part of the solution.
Nevada ranchers and farmers might want to heed that advice. Water-intensive alfalfa, grown in the driest state in the country, is Nevada's second biggest agricultural product after beef. This ranch in White Pine County, for example, is part of a 7-property empire that stretches across more than 100 miles north to south, covering a vast 950,000 acres overall. Who owns this sprawling conglomerate? You do, the public. The Great Basin Ranch, as it's known, is owned and operated by a public agency, the Southern Nevada Water Authority.
Take a guess. What's the one and only crop grown on SNWA's vast ranching empire in eastern Nevada? Alfalfa, and a lot of it. 8,600 tons of it last year.
Why is a public agency in the ranching business competing directly against smaller, beleaguered family farms? 15 years ago, SNWA plunked down a whopping $79 million to buy 7 ranches that, at the time, were valued at 1/10 that amount. The properties were intended as beachheads for SNWA's plan to build more than 300 miles of pipes and pumps to siphon billions of gallons of rural groundwater and send it to thirsty Las Vegas. Cost estimates grew from $1 billion to $5 billion to $15 billion before SNWA pulled it off the table. The plan was scrapped not because of the expense, but because opponents prevailed in multiple court battles, arguing that sucking an ocean of water from rural aquifers would drain the water table and create a huge dead zone. Now, years after the pipeline plan was supposedly killed, SNWA is still pouring public resources into its ranches. This New Mexico lawyer thinks it speaks volumes.
But you think that the fact that they still are pumping money into running these ranches is a tell, right? What does it tell us?
Yeah, I think it's a highly suspicious activity. There's no real, in any way, reasonable explanation for them to continuing to play the game of ranch ownership and management up here in White Pine County. Other than that, they're still somehow angling in the future for a toehold or a foothold to allow them to take rural water.
Herskovitz was fighting cancer when he prevailed over a battery of high-powered lawyers employed by SNWA. Records show the agency has retained a long list of expensive law firms to fight its various battles. The cows and sheep of the SNWA ranches have their very own lawyer lobbyist who's paid $600,000 per year to represent them at the Nevada legislature. Those legal costs don't generally get included in the financial statements of the Great Basin Ranch, statements which appear to show the ranch is operating in the black. The ranch spent millions to buy all new stock. It spent millions more on new watering pivots to grow its alfalfa, an impressive array of top-of-the-line tractors and trucks, new barns to house all that hay. Unlike its smaller neighbors, this ranch doesn't have to pay a mortgage or property taxes or license fees for its vehicles.
Boy, if that's a great neighbor, I'm sure glad they haven't been vindictive.
Sheep rancher Hank Vogel
Vogler has been in the crosshairs of SNWA ever since he came out opposed to the pipeline plan. Although SNWA vowed to be a good neighbor when it bought the 7 ranches, it's been embroiled in multiple disputes with several of its smaller rivals, expensive legal fights over grazing rights that have drained the wallets of family ranches already strained by the drought. Records we obtained from SNWA show an ongoing surveillance of Hank Vogler and his livestock. The SNWA ranch has filed numerous complaints about Vogler with other government agencies that led to investigations and more lawyer fees.
This is what I spent my entire life trying to do, and now I'm trying to be shoved out of business, pushed aside, destroyed. My entire life savings is going down the crapper.
We wanted to ask SNWA why they're using public money to compete against private businesses and why they're growing alfalfa, but they declined to appear on camera. Instead, they responded to our written questions. We are posting those on our website. Back to you.